Hey everyone, welcome to my Styrian Grand Prix review. My name's Aaron. Welcome to the 5 red lights.
1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, and it's go, 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 go!
Welcome along then everyone, and before I start my recap of the Styrian Grand Prix, please be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe if you're new, and check out my social links, which will be in the description, but you can also see them just below on the screen at 5_red_lights on Twitter, and 5 red lights on Instagram. And remember, hashtag kind is king. Show that kindness to everybody. Let's crack on with a 60-second race review. Max Verstappen took his 4th win of 2021, while Lewis Hamilton came in 2nd place for Mercedes. Valtteri Bottas jumped Sergio Perez to beat him to 3rd, only just though holding on the final lap. Ferrari recovered from struggling early on to finish 6th and 7th behind Lando Norris of McLaren, while there were also points for Lance Stroll, Yuki Tsunoda, Fernando Alonso, and there was heartbreak for George Russell. It's official then. The Mercedes domination of the hybrid era is over. It's now 4 races in a row that Red Bull have come out victorious, something Ferrari didn't achieve in their height of the hybrid era. Now, Max and Red Bull have asserted control over the championship over the last few races, and also bear in mind that the one that Max didn't win was won by Sergio Perez, although Lewis could easily have snatched that away without the magic button, which forced him into going straight on at Azerbaijan. But Max and Red Bull have taken now full charge of this championship as they further opened up the gap by just 6 points. But every little helps in the championship fight, and in a title battle as close as this, every point matters, which is why it was so important that Lewis went and got that fastest lap point in the dying laps. Actually, on the final lap, he took that point. As I said, it's a 4th consecutive win for Red Bull, and Mercedes are really on the back foot. They just didn't have an answer today. They had nothing in terms of pace. Whenever Lewis closed up, Max opened the gap, and whenever Max opened the gap on his own, Lewis could not really do anything about it. And in the end, he just had to settle for 2nd place. And they couldn't do anything with strategy either. They couldn't leave Bottas out longer because he had to try and overcome a 3-place grid penalty, which he did. He jumped Perez in the pit stops, but that was because Sergio had a slow stop himself with the left rear tyre getting a bit stuck on its way off. Not nearly as stuck as Valtteri's right front in Monaco, but you know, it's not helpful, is it? So Mercedes just didn't have anything up their sleeve today. Usually they have a way out, they can strategize, or they've just got a little bit of extra pace and Lewis can deliver something. But it was a Red Bull track today. Red Bull have been quick there in years gone by. Even when Mercedes were at the height of their dominance, Austria always seemed to have an Achilles heel for them. And it proved so again today. They backed up their win in France with a fantastic victory again today for Max Verstappen, winning by nearly 20 seconds in the end. So it looks rosy for Red Bull at the moment, and they're in complete control. Okay, they didn't get the 2nd place on the podium for Sergio Perez, but P4 is exactly where they wanted him to be as a minimum, because that keeps him close enough to the Mercedes to help with the Constructors' Championship, something that Pierre Gasly and Alex Albon fail to do on a regular basis. Sergio is doing the job. He's absolutely smashing it for Red Bull at the moment. Looking forward, is there any way back for Mercedes, or are they already concentrating too much on the 2022 regulation changes? We'll have to wait and see. I've noted down Silverstone, Budapest, Spa. They might work in Mercedes' favour a little bit more, but the Silver Arrows are going to have to dig incredibly deep to topple Red Bull. It's going to be a mammoth task. It's not all lost yet, by no means, and one DNF can turn this whole situation on its head, and Lewis will be ruining that mistake in Azerbaijan, because he could conceivably be only a couple of points behind or ahead at this rate. So that, coupled with his pretty dire Monaco weekend, are really hurting at the moment, and it's going to take something extraordinary for Max to stop this run of form. And you wouldn't bet against Red Bull making it 5 on the trot next weekend, considering we're at the same venue. Not all lost, though, for Mercedes. This is only round 8 of 23. And we don't know about some races yet, but at the moment it's 23 races. So Mercedes have still got the long game to play. Still all to play for. Lots of points up for grabs. But they need Bottas back in the game. He lost too much time behind Sergio and, of course, Lando Norris today to really be a threat. But that was because of his mishap in qualifying. What would the situation have been had Valtteri started at the front alongside Max? Who knows? He might have just had to move out of the way because his pace wasn't that brilliant, because even in clear air he didn't seem to close up on the leading pair either. So interesting day for Mercedes. They'll go away and lick their wounds, but Red Bull, they're going to be drowning themselves in champagne. So while Max can apparently do absolutely no wrong at the front, someone who would dearly like a little bit slice of that luck is George Russell. Now, I tipped him for a Q3 appearance this weekend, and he came oh so close. 0.008 of a second. That's quicker than you can blink, I think. But so close. Promoted to P10 though, because Yuki Tsunoda picked up a grid drop and was running brilliantly. Qualified 11th, promoted to 10th, moved up to 8th on the opening lap and was going great guns. He was in the points. It looked like today was the day that George Russell would finally get the points that he deserved in a Williams. And he was actually holding off a bit of an angry train behind him, which included Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda, both of whom are renowned overtakers. He was hot on the heels of Fernando Alonso, a 2-time world champion and multiple race winner. So not bad company for George. But they suddenly had alarm bells ringing when George got a little too close to Fernando on the Williams pit wall. And they mentioned reliability with their plan for their pit stop strategy. And in the end, it became clear that at the pit stop there was a larger problem than just reliability, because they had to go in with the pneumatic air pressure refillers. And soon George tumbled down the order and retired on what became a bit of a dismal day. I mean, I had my George Russell t-shirt on just in case the points came along, but unfortunately it was in vain. Luckily for George, though, the car was going really well, strong pace, didn't really look under pressure from any of the cars behind him. He didn't make any mistakes, considering he's had one race where he's been at the front and he's been in these positions before and made mistakes, notably Imola. So for him to be hanging it all together, keeping it on the track, I was riding on board with him for much of his opening stint, and he didn't put a foot wrong. Ricciardo was behind him and couldn't really make much inroads, and George was closing on Fernando, who was struggling with some tyre wear. Hopefully he can have better luck in 7 days' time, because the car was strong around the Red Bull ring, and it's so close. It's there. The Q3 appearance, the points. Something's got to give at some point, and he's gonna score some points. It's like a centre forward who hasn't scored for 12 games, and one just goes in off his backside or something. That's what George needs. Something like that, just to break the wall down about the points, and just when it happens, there might just be the floodgates opening. Cruel luck for George today, but a big shout out to his teammate Nicholas Latifi, who also suffered some bad luck. But his qualifying performance, okay, his grid position doesn't really show it, but I thought his lap in qualifying 1 was superb. He was unlucky that he did it first, and then everyone else had the benefit of the grip rising on the track, and he tumbled down the order. But still, he put in a super lap. Nicholas is no mug behind the wheel. Okay, he comes with money, but a lot of drivers do. And he's proving that he is a very capable pair of hands. And if you put a driver of race-winning quality next to him, I'm not saying that George isn't. Obviously, he's not won a race yet, so we can't say that he is. But say, I don't know, a Finnish guy who's won 9 races for the Mercedes team or someone like that. Don't know where you'd find him, but someone like that. Plop him in the seat next to Nicholas, and I'm sure he'd go great guns. The team would develop as well, and Nicholas would improve accordingly. So while it's a good weekend for Williams in the strength of their performance, it's a very disappointing weekend in the fact that they've come away with the usual nothing. But they were very close. They were super close, and I think maybe, just maybe, the Austrian Grand Prix might be the day that George Russell gets points for Williams. Okay, so let's dive into our driver recap, starting with Lewis Hamilton. A bit of a lonely race, as he described it, for the 7 times world champion. Settled for second place after it became apparent that he didn't have the pace to catch Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. So pitted late on for the soft tyres and blitzed a fastest lap, picked up an extra point, which could be very crucial in the grand scheme of this World Championship, but not the win he needs really to put the pressure back on Red Bull, all the pressure remaining on Mercedes. Pressure still on his teammate Valtteri Bottas. He recovered from his grid drop from that really odd spin in the pit lane. He didn't seem to agree that it deserved a grid penalty. It was a touch harsh, but you know, the pit lane is a dangerous enough place as it is, and we've seen things go badly wrong. We've seen broken bones and front jack men getting run over, and back when we had refueling, the refueling hose would be taking the refueling mechanic with it. And of course, we remember fuel fire for Jos Verstappen. So safety is a non-negotiable. So if you do something that compromises the safety of the drivers or the personnel within the F1 paddock, slam dunk, I'm afraid, Valtteri. So he recovered from that, bagged himself a podium, and he pounced on Sergio Perez's slow stop, executing the undercut. Well, actually, it was the overcut in the end. So kudos to Valtteri for that, recovering from a bad situation. Sergio Perez, he lost the place in the stops to Valtteri, but he went for the 2-stop to try and recover that position on the track. And he closed in on Valtteri just 1 lap too late, unfortunately, for the Mexican. Really, he should have been on the front row because that car was pretty much the fastest thing around the Red Bull ring. So to be starting in 4th, having qualified 5th, he was actually out-qualified by Lando Norris's McLaren, which probably says more about Lando's performance than it does Sergio's, because Sergio's been doing a great job for Red Bull. But unfortunately, he couldn't pick up that 3rd consecutive podium for the Red Bull team. Contrasting fortunes at McLaren. So again, the Woking team had Lando running brilliantly. He was up in a strong 3rd place, and he let Sergio and Valtteri go, knowing that his race wasn't really with them. So it was a lonely but solid 5th place at the flag. While Daniel Ricciardo, the struggle continues for Daniel. He was running kind of okay. He was up in 9th, chasing George Russell, not really able to make many inroads on the Williams. But there was a short loss of power, which cost him 4 places. And in the end, that's where he finished. He finished behind Tsunoda, he finished behind Raikkonen, he finished behind Vettel. Another disappointing day for Daniel, considering qualifying was not great. And Friday had looked so promising. He was 2nd fastest on Friday afternoon, and it looked like we had the old Daniel back. So not really sure what happened there. He's not either. They'll just have to go away and come back next week and have another go. Same track, maybe the same conditions. Let's hope for something slightly different on the conditions front. We were promised rain. Where is it? Let's head to Ferrari. They were on the struggle bus in the first half of the race after Charles Leclerc suffered early wing damage in contact with Pierre Gasly, and Carlos Sainz had qualified in 13th. He'd qualified way down the order, much further down than he should have been. And he was running 10th in the early stages, and they were kind of nowhere really, Ferrari. It looked like they were going to lose even more ground to McLaren, given that Lando was running way up in 3rd early on and then 5th. But a very strong second half of the race bagged a 6th, 7th place result for the Scuderia. So they actually gained 2 points on McLaren because Daniel Ricciardo failed to score. Carlos finishing ahead of Charles, and obviously Charles having the benefit of that second fresh set of medium tyres to go to the end. But Carlos did a mammoth stint to open up the race, and then he stuck on the hards and attacked. He got past Alonso in the stops, and then he nailed Stroll, but he got stuck actually behind Lewis Hamilton as he was a lapped car, and he couldn't really close on Lando. That would have been quite nice to see the two former McLaren teammates going head-to-head on the track, but kind of damage limitation in the end for Ferrari, and a semi-okay recovery. Moving on to Aston Martin. Lance Stroll, he was the lead Aston Martin this weekend. He picked up 8th place behind the two Ferraris. Further helpful points for Aston Martin. They're probably not going to finish as high as they did last season. McLaren and Ferrari look way too out of reach. It's going to take another Baku-style race where both McLarens and Ferraris sort of implode into each other or something, and Aston Martin have a 1-2 to put them back in the hunt for third place. I mean, it could happen. Anything can happen in Formula 1, and it usually does, so who knows? It could. That'd be fun, though. So Stroll picked up a nice 8th place finish, kind of out on his own, running 6th early on, and then lost out when the two Ferraris came back through the field on their fresher tyres. Sebastian Vettel came home 12th, having qualified outside the top 10. Not such a stellar weekend for Seb, but he was there in the mix with things. You can't perform brilliant every weekend, and there are going to be some tracks where Lance is just slightly quicker than Seb in that machine, given that he's got he's got more experience with that car. Moving on to Alpine, and Fernando Alonso looking a classy act again for the French team. Although, it must be said, Esteban Ocon, he had the pace on Friday, and that kind of evaporated after Friday night, and it never returned. So it's P9 at the end for Fernando and P14 for Esteban. And I think Alpine will be kind of mediumly satisfied, if that's even a thing, because they picked up a couple of points, but it could potentially have been a lot better, especially if Esteban had got his act together. They've given him this 3-year contract, and now it's no points and been beaten by Fernando in all of the last 3 races. So work to do for Esteban, but they've put their eggs in his basket, so to speak. So he's with them, and they're showing the faith with him, which might explain things. Maybe he's relaxed, knowing that he's secured his drive for next year, and his results are suffering accordingly, perhaps. AlphaTauri had a difficult day. They picked up 10th place with Yuki Tsunoda as he stayed crash-free the entire weekend. And, well, he did okay. He did get in the way of Bottas and picked up a grid penalty. He did get into Q3, but then had to start from the midfield. Recovered nicely for 10th. Pierre Gasly, he qualified in the top 10 and picked up that early puncture. And then the rear wheel came loose completely, sort of Gilles Villeneuve style, as he toured back to the pits. I've looked at the onboard, and I'm not sure whether he was driving too quickly. I'd have to put that to an expert, because I've never driven a car with a puncture like that. So could he have been more cautious? But listening to his radio, he was pretty fuming, so that might have explained that. Let's head to the other Italian team with the Alfa branding. It is Alfa Romeo, and it was 11th place for Kimi Räikkönen, the Iceman, showing that he's still got it, racing with some drivers who are probably young enough to be his son. So, especially in the case of Yuki Tsunoda. So, no points in the end for Kimi, but okay, he's still got it. He's absolutely a top class performer if you give him the right equipment. And it was a disappointing day for Antonio Giovinazzi. as he finished 15th. I must point out, actually, that Kimi lost out that final points paying position because Charles put on those mediums and surged back through the pack. So, unfortunately, no points for Alfa Romeo. Haas, well, 16th and 18th for Mick and Maz. 2 and 3 laps down respectively. They did have another wheel-to-wheel battle, which is fine. I mean, I'm not Gunther Steiner, and I'm not going to tell him how to run his Formula 1 team because I know exactly what he would say to me. But what's the point of letting them race wheel-to-wheel like that and risk DNFs? I mean, we had it when Grosjean and Magnussen were trying to back-to-back the two cars in 2019, and then they crashed at the first lap in Silverstone. So with the two rookies, do you really want to risk that and the costs implications? I mean, they're racers. You've got to let them race at some point, and then they need to hone their skills for racing. But I mean, surely there's a slightly more sensible way to go about it than just letting them race wheel to wheel. We know what Mazepin's like. He doesn't need anyone near him to spin the car. So you put Mick next to him and the chances of that increase tenfold. And bear in mind, they're unlikely to finish any higher than 15th on a normal racing day. So 16th and 18th for them proves kind of that. And lastly, Williams, obviously we touched on George Russell. His race was ruined by unreliability. And I spoke about Nicholas Latifi and his performance in qualifying, but it was a disappointing day for him. He came home 17th. I think he picked up a puncture early on and he just sort of ran around at the back for most of it. Got himself ahead of Mazepin towards the end, which, is as it should be. I'm not sure Mazepin is quite ready to start finishing ahead of other drivers just yet. Still a little bit of learning to do for him. But that is how everybody's race panned out today. So that's all for today. Thanks for watching. And a question ahead of the Austrian Grand Prix for you to put your answer to in the comments section down below. Williams were really close to getting into Q3 this weekend with George Russell. Can he achieve that next time out in Austria at the Austrian Grand Prix? And as a second one, will Nicholas Latifi get into Q2? Chuck your answer to those in the comments section down below. Once again, thank you for watching. Leave a like on the video, subscribe if you're new around here, check out my other content. I've got a Drive Crate unboxing coming out very soon, and check out my Driver of the Month award, which the voting for will actually start this week. So get your votes in for that. I'll leave a link to it on my Twitter, which you can follow down here. Hang on, there we go, down here. There's my Twitter handle, and I will leave a link for the vote for the Driver of the Month, if I can get my words out. That'll be on my Twitter. Thanks for watching. I think I've rambled on enough. My name's Aaron. This has been the 5 Red Lights, and I'll see you next time when the 5 Red Lights go out. Bye for now, guys.